My name is Bobby. A change has occurred at the great house of Collinwood. The house looks completely different. Familiar faces are behaving in strange ways, and there are more empty rooms than usual.
Professor Stokes, you gave me a little scare there.
Sorry, Jeff, I thought you saw me.
Have you seen anything?
Barnabas Collins is not here. I proceeded on a hunch, but I was wrong. Stupid of me. I think we better go back to the mainland at once.
When the original Dark Shadows TV series was still on the air, the TV cast and crew made a Dark Shadows movie, House of Dark Shadows.
When I was at the Dark Shadows convention, we actually got to watch it on the big screen, and visit the Lyndhurst mansion where they filmed it at, which was very groovy.
Dark Shadows was a series of many firsts, and this is another one, as the first theatrically released movie ever based on a daytime soap opera. Creator-producer Dan Curtis was having enormous success with his vampire soap opera Dark Shadows, but now he had a bigger goal, making a Dark Shadows movie. It took him 2 years to find a financial backer. Everyone was saying making a movie out of soap opera had never been done before. Soap opera success didn't mean movie success, and one producer was interested, but only if he cast real movie stars and not the Dark Shadows actors. Don't worry, you're stars to me, gang. Finally, Dan met with Jim Aubrey of MGM. Now, Aubrey had been the head of CBS, so he knew just how popular a TV show could be, and he gave Dan Curtis the official go-ahead.
Dan decided to retell the original Barnabas storyline. On the TV show, he had wanted Barnabas to be an evil killing machine who eventually got staked in the heart. But the audience fell in love with the character, so that became out of the question. For the movie, he was going back to his original vision. To ensure it wouldn't be compromised, Dan would direct as well as produce. He had never directed before, so to warm up, he did a few episodes of the TV show. Because soaps don't take a summer hiatus, both the show and the movie would be in production at the same time. So several characters were temporarily written out. For example, Barnabas gets locked in his coffin on the series, so that Jonathan Frid could star in the movie.
The cast was huge! The budget was small, the schedule was tight, and they were filming on location. They encountered rain, a blizzard, and even worse, teenagers. As usual, the Dark Shadows fans found their way to the set and snuck in to watch them film the climactic scene. Joan Bennett, who plays Elizabeth Collins Stoddard, had been in over 70 movies, but she said she had never been in a movie as hectic as this one. But because of his strength, willpower, and the loyalty he inspired, Dan Curtis was able to pull it off.
The plot centers on the wealthy Collins family and their friends who live in the house Collinwood. The drunken and creepy handyman Willie is searching in the Collins family mausoleum for the lost family jewels. He opens the chain coffin, but instead of jewels, he finds Barnabas Collins, the vampire. Barnabas introduces himself to the Collins family as a distant cousin from England. He moves into the old house on the estate and begins preying upon the young women at Collinwood, including his cousin Carlin, whom he turns into a vampire. Barnabas meets David Collins' governess, Maggie Evans, and falls in love with her, and believes her to be the reincarnation of his lost love, Josette Dupre. Professor Stokes suspects there's a vampire on the loose, and tells Dr. Julia Hoffman. Julia discovers it's Barnabas, and tries to cure him, but also falls in love with him.
The plot is taken from the original Barnabas storyline they did on the TV show, which is a good vampire story. It's roughly the same characters, and the same music, but without the soap opera format, and without TV censors. On a soap opera, you really can't kill off too many characters, because once they're gone for good, unless they come back as a ghost or zombie. Dark Shadows is the only soap opera I watch. Does it work differently on General Hospital? And when you do kill them off, it can't be too violent, especially in the 1960s. However, in the Dark Shadows movie, those are no longer concerns. So Barnabas kills almost everyone. Then they come back as a vampire and have to be killed again. It's like a vampire apocalypse. The violence is animalistic, and there's plenty of blood.
On the show, when Barnabas beats Willie with his cane, it's pretty low-key. But here, it's an elaborate scene of Barnabas's brutality.
Willie! Willie!
Hi, Barnabas. What's the matter?
You warned about me! You betrayed me!
I just mentioned your name, I swear!
You tried to send her away from me!
That's my favorite scene, because it just highlights how different the movie is. Another difference is the pacing is faster. Soap operas are known for stretching out their storylines and having a slow pacing. But here, they're cramming 155 episodes worth of plot into an hour and 37-minute movie. And it's like Dark Shadows on steroids. The movie plows through this plot with one turn after another and no space in between. Which I love. It's exciting and fun. However, because they are going so fast, sometimes there's not a logical bridge between plot point and plot point. Take the scene where Professor Stokes is talking to Julia about vampires.
Julia, do you believe in the existence of vampires?
You're not really serious.
But I am. There is no animal in this area that attacks people for their blood.
Assuming you're right, this cell I've discovered would indicate that this creature, whatever it is, might be curable. Julia doesn't believe in vampires, and 2 seconds later, she's gearing up to cure one. And when Stokes tells the other characters about it, no one believes him. But then, 2 scenes later, the entire Collinsport police force is on board with a vampire hunt. It's ridiculous! And it makes it hard to take the movie seriously. Another issue of the fast pacing is the movie has a very large cast of characters, which is normal for a soap opera. But if you haven't seen the show, it does make it confusing trying to figure out who's who. While the movie has its problems, it still has the same Dark Shadows characters we know, love, and fear.
The movie is filled with the Dark Shadows TV actors, both for the major parts and for the small ones. But the main one is the Shakespearean actor Jonathan Frid as Barnabas Collins.
Jonathan hated his portrayal of Barnabas in the movie, and felt they turned this complex character into nothing but a bloodthirsty monster. Urgh. Like in the first Barnabas storyline, he's polite in front of others, but has a sinister air. And he has sympathetic moments. He genuinely loves Josette, and he wants to be human. He gets angry sometimes, but he got angry on the show too. Just ask Willie Loomis. So if they're hitting all the marks, why did Jonathan and some fans feel this way? Because the movie's going for violence! When he's angry, the rage is more intense. Also, the show was filmed straight through with 3 cameras. So Jonathan Frid was able to make that emotional transition from from despair to anger on his own and make it seem natural. Whereas in the movie, it's shot 1, normal Barnabas, and then shot 2, he's going completely batty.
Willie, I have found her. I have found my Josette. And this time, there will be that wedding. Love me, Barnabas, not her.
How dare you follow me! I didn't summon you! You have defiled this room!
Near the end, due to Julia's meddling, Barnabas ages rapidly and looks like a monster. They completely drop the sympathetic element and just have him be a killer. So they're trying to have Barnabas be both the tragic figure from the show and be this Christopher Lee physical powerhouse in the scary scenes. It's cool, but very clunky, because the two things don't always connect. While Barney suffers, the movie is a perfect vehicle for his slave, Willie Loomis, as played by John Carlin. John Carlin is one of the most talented actors in Dark Shadows. He has this James Dean quality, and is always so in the moment. By condensing the Willie Loomis character arc into a movie, he really gets to show off his depth as an actor and his versatility.
In the beginning, he's this drunken creep who won't take his hands off Maggie and is into grave robbing. Charm boy. But after he unleashes Barnabas, he becomes nervous and scared of what Barnabas is going to do next. He's desperate to save Barnabas' victims. He tries, but can't.
I can't do anything!
I'd like to help you, Maggie, but I can't.
I can't do anything. You like a glass of water? I'll get you a glass of water.
However, when all hope seems lost, Willie overcomes his struggle and saves Maggie, and is really the hero of the movie. Along with John Carlin, the immensely talented Nancy Barrett gets to sink her teeth into her film portrayal of Carolyn Stoddard. Carolyn is a member of the Collins family. Now, the Barnabas storyline on the show had been done a few years earlier, so she plays a more mature and less rebellious version of Carolyn. However, like on the show, Barnabas bites her, and she falls under his spell. But the movie goes a step further, and she becomes a vampire.
As a vampire, she's beautiful. She has this white dress on that looks like she has bat wings. And Nancy has this quiet, haunting quality. But during the scene where she's being staked, she's like a wild animal being trapped. And it's one of the most intense scenes of the movie.
Along with the biting characterizations, the movie also has a fascinating visual design. Dan always tried to put some visual pizzazz into the show, but on a daily soap opera, you could only do so much. So he goes all out for the movie. He used all real locations, like the Lyndhurst Mansion and Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, which provide a real spooky atmosphere, and you could feel the history. Throughout the film, Dan also uses tons of oddly positioned shots and camera tricks. Using too many gimmick shots isn't considered great filmmaking, but because he's trying to distinguish the movie from the show, it works.
The makeup is great. Famed makeup artist Dick Smith did the bite wounds, and as he did on the series, he did the old age makeup on Barnabas, which is truly frightening. Even the ending credits have a visual surprise. Barnabas slowly dissolves, and then a bat flies away.
While it usually doesn't receive credit for it, that's actually an early example of a post-credit scene, especially when you consider that they were originally going to bring Barnabas back for the Dark Shadows movie sequel. Although some say he overdid it, Dan Curtis took full advantage of the fact that he was making a movie, and it shows in every frame.
With the tagline, "Come see how the vampires do it," House of Dark Shadows had a huge publicity campaign. The cast did interviews, and in a New Jersey amusement park, they even had a Miss American Vampire contest. The movie was a huge hit. It helped save MGM from bankruptcy, and it got a sequel. But because he hated how Dan made him play Barnabas in the first film, Jonathan Frid refused to be in it. Despite the film's success, some feel it led to the cancellation of the series, speculating that after parents took their kids to see it, they saw the violence and wouldn't let their kids watch the show anymore. One piece of violence that didn't make the final cut was an early scene where David Collins pretends to hang himself. It was taken out for fear that kids might try it at home.
The movie doesn't have the same charm of the series, but you can always watch a series. It's not a replacement for it. For Dark Shadows fans, it's groovy to see Dark Shadows done as a movie. For newcomers, although there's a few flaws, it's a pretty good vampire picture, and a very accessible introduction to the franchise. So I give it 3 Mad Genius Directors out of 4. Thank you for watching Dusty Old Movies, and have a fantastic day!